He helped an alien stranger escape, then learned she was their queen. The medical bay door peeled open, and Roan Callister's headlamp caught violet blood streaked across deck plating. A woman slumped against the bulkhead, skin pale lavender, black hair matted across an unconscious face. Pointed ears emerged from the tangled strands. 4 fingers rested against the deck, their bone-white tips leaving faint smears where she'd dragged herself into this corner. Velith. He'd heard the stories, hive mind species, touch readers who could sense emotion through contact. The Velith kept to their territories, and humans who crossed those boundaries rarely returned with stories worth telling. Her chest rose with shallow breaths. The derelict freighter groaned around him, metal singing through the superstructure. 20 minutes before the debris field's gravitational pull tore the wreck into a fatal spin, he should leave, report the Velith presence, collect his finder's fee, clean and safe. Her eyes opened, pure amber shot through with inner light, pupils slightly elliptical as they struggled to focus. The glow pulsed once, twice, then steadied as her gaze locked onto his face. Then she lunged. Roan threw himself backward as she came off the deck. Her hand caught his wrist, bone-tipped fingers pressing against his pulse, and the world inverted. Terror crashed through him, bright and metallic. Silence where sound should be, a void so profound it felt like drowning. Confusion layered over desperation, layered over grief. Not his feelings. Hers, bleeding into him through contact, through whatever neural pathways those hardened fingertips accessed. He wrenched free and stumbled into the corridor. The Velith woman swayed in the doorway, eyes wide and blazing brighter now, violet skin flushed darker with exertion. She spoke in a liquid language that rolled like water over stones, then switched to standard when he didn't respond. "Please," she said, "they are coming. They will kill me, please." Her legs buckled. Roan caught her before she hit the deck, and this time, when her skin touched his, the flood of emotion came muted, exhaustion dampening whatever made the connection possible. She was lighter than expected, her frame tall but built with slender efficiency. Up close, he could see bruises darkening her skin from lavender to deep purple. The way her pointed ears tilted back against her skull, dried blood crusting the corner of her mouth. The freighter shuddered. 15 minutes now. "Damn it," Roan muttered, and carried her toward the tide. He moved quickly through the derelict, his salvage instincts noting scorch marks on bulkheads, breached cargo containers, every access panel forced open as if someone had been searching. The woman's fingers curled into his jacket with unconscious grip that spoke of practice at holding on. The tide waited in the docking tube, cramped and familiar. Roan sealed the airlock and carried her to the medical bay, fold-down bunk, diagnostic panel, emergency supplies. Under bright lights, she looked worse. Bruising spread across her ribs, visible through torn remnants of what might have been a formal garment once. A deep cut traced her left temple. Her black hair fanned across the thin pillow, and with eyes closed, she looked almost human, except for the ears, the skin tone, those bone-white fingertips catching the light. Roan cleaned and sealed the temple wound with practiced efficiency. She didn't wake, though her breathing steadied as the diagnostic confirmed exhaustion, dehydration, blood loss, nothing immediately fatal. Whatever had happened aboard that freighter, she'd survived it through stubborn endurance. The ship's sensors chimed from the cockpit. Roan locked the medical bay door and dropped into his pilot's seat to check readouts. 3 contacts on long range, coalition cruisers moving in search pattern through the debris field. His jaw tightened. Someone official had noticed the freighter's distress beacon. Or noticed something else. The comm crackled to life. "Salvage vessel Tide. This is TCN Resolute. You are operating in a restricted investigation zone. Prepare for inspection and boarding." Roan's hand hovered over the comm response for 3 seconds that stretched like hours. He could turn over the Velith woman and walk away with a salvage claim, maybe even a commendation for recovering what the Coalition clearly wanted. He thought about the way she'd said please, the terror when she'd touched him, the silence she'd felt, that profound, drowning absence of something that should have been there. His hand moved to the engine controls instead. "Tied to Resolute," he said. "Negative on inspection. I've got unstable cargo and I'm clearing the area. file your complaint with the Salvagers Guild. He cut the connection and punched the thrusters to full burn. The tide leaped forward, pushing him back into his seat as the derelict fell away behind them. The debris field was dense here, chunks of ice and rock and shattered hull plating that pinged off the shields as he wove between them. The cruisers would need time to maneuver, time to lock targeting solutions through the interference. The medical bay door rattled. Roan checked the internal feed and saw her awake, standing with one hand pressed against the wall for balance, the other reaching for the locked door. Her eyes blazed gold in the low light, and even through the camera he could see the fear written in the set of her shoulders, the way her ears tilted back. "Strap in," he called through the intercom. "This is going to get rough." A coalition cruiser broke through the debris field ahead, silhouette massive against the nebula's purple glow. Targeting alerts screamed across his console. Roan swore and threw the tide into a hard roll, feeling the artificial gravity stutter and compensate as weapons fire carved through the space they'd occupied a heartbeat before. The woman's hand appeared on the cockpit doorframe. She pulled herself forward, moving with determination despite the way the ship bucked and twisted. Her violet skin had gone pale again, nearly lavender white, but her eyes held steady on him. "What can I do?" she asked. Roan pointed to the co-pilot's seat. "Sit. Hold on. Try not to die." She slid into the seat and found the harness with those long fingers, clicking it closed with competence that came from familiarity with ship systems. Good. He needed to focus on not getting them both killed. Another barrage of weapons fire lit up the view screen. Roan dove toward a cluster of asteroids, using their mass to break line of sight, then pushed the engines past their rated tolerance. The tide screamed in protest but responded, acceleration pressing him into the seat until his vision tunneled. Beside him, the Velith woman made a sound. Not pain, exactly. Wonder, maybe. Her hand lifted toward the view screen where the nebula stretched in bands of violet and crimson and gold, and for a moment she looked less like someone fleeing death and more like someone seeing something beautiful for the first time in a long time. The cruisers fell behind. Roan found a sensor-dead zone within an asteroid cluster and cut the engines to minimal output, letting the rocks hide them while he caught his breath and listened to the cooling systems complain about the abuse. They'd made it. For now. The woman turned to look at him, and in the sudden silence, her voice came soft. "Thank you. I am called Thasara." Roan met those glowing amber eyes and felt the weight of the decision he'd just made settle onto his shoulders like a familiar burden. He'd saved her, which meant she was his responsibility now, which meant he'd just made himself a target for the Terran coalition and whatever else was hunting her. He studied her face, high cheekbones, the way black hair fell across one shoulder, pointed ears that no longer pressed flat with fear. She sat with regal posture despite exhaustion, hands folded in her lap, bone-white fingertips resting against the harness. Beautiful, he realized, alien and strange and undeniably beautiful. "Roan," he said, "and you're going to tell me exactly what I just got myself into." 3 days of backwater jumps settled into cautious rhythm aboard the tide. Thasara helped repair systems with intuitive understanding. She watched Roan cook, fascinated by textures, overwhelmed by flavors. Their conversations shifted from wary to curious. "Your collective mind," Roan said, elbows deep in a coolant line while she held the seal steady with her four-fingered hands. "What's it actually like?" Thasara's eyes dimmed. "Imagine always feeling others within you, their joys, fears, certainties, never questioning your place because you feel how you fit into the whole." She paused. "Now imagine that suddenly silent, like going deaf and blind, but worse. The loss is of connection itself." "That why you're running?" "I fled as Sovereign deposed. A faction led by Valix believes emotional connection makes us weak. He would sever our bonds, transform us into isolated beings, optimized for efficiency and conquest." Roan's hand stilled. "You lied about who you are." "I could not risk you turning me over for bounty." Her skin flushed darker. "I am sorry." He saw the fear beneath her composure. "How much is the bounty?" "Enough to tempt most humans." Roan sealed the line. "Then we find loyalist forces. Few remain scattered. Good enough. We'll get you there." Why help me now that you know the danger? Because you asked, and because whatever's hunting you thinks it's okay to kill someone for wanting their people to feel things. That pisses me off. Something shifted in her expression. Her fingers brushed his hand, gratitude flooding through neural contact before she pulled away. 2 days later, at a gray market station, Tessara insisted on accompanying him despite her distinctive appearance. I cannot hide forever, and I would see other beings again. The market overwhelmed her within minutes. Hundreds of humans crowded the narrow corridors, each one a chaos of individual emotion pressing against whatever senses let her read feelings through proximity. Eyes widening, pupils contracting to thin ellipses, ears flattening against her skull, breath quick and shallow, violet skin paling toward white as the sensory overload built. Roan took her hand without thinking. Focus on me, just me. Her fingers tightened around his bone-white tips, pressing his palm. The neural contact opened controlled, deliberate, a thread letting him anchor her in the chaos. The crowd noise seemed to fade for her, shoulders dropping from their rigid line. She looked at him with something like wonder. You are so clear, she whispered. In all this chaos, you are a single steady note. Back on the tide, she watched him stow supplies. Why do you live alone? Humans are social creatures. Your biology craves connection, yet you choose isolation. Roan's hands stilled. He'd known this question would come. Had a crew once, 5 years ago. Salvage job went wrong. Instability in a derelict core we didn't catch in time. Reactor went critical while I was in the service tunnel checking life support. He closed the storage compartment harder than necessary. I survived. They didn't, because I was in the wrong section at the right time. Or the right section at the wrong time. Depends how you look at it. Silence stretched, broken only by environmental systems humming. Then Tessara crossed to him, hand lifting to his temple with feather-light pressure. The neural contact opened like a door. Instead of her emotions flooding in, he saw himself through her perception. Not a man defined by failures. Someone whose capacity for care endured despite everything. Someone who chose to help even when it hurt, who carried grief as proof of love rather than weakness. You carry their deaths as if you caused them, she said softly. But I see what you cannot. You grieve because you loved them. That is not weakness. That is proof you lived fully, even when it cost you. His throat tightened. Her violet skin deepened to rich purple, eyes blazing gold bright enough to cast faint shadows. She stood close enough that he felt warmth radiating from her, saw the subtle patterns in her skin like watermarks, counted the dark lashes framing those luminous eyes. Her black hair had come loose, falling across one shoulder in waves that caught the galley's dim light. Your people, he said roughly. They don't do this, do they? One-on-one connection. No. Her hand remained against his face and he found himself leaning into the touch. We have collective intimacy. Thousands of minds sharing simultaneously. But this, feeling only one person being fully present with just them, this is new. This is... She searched for words, formal cadence faltering. Terrifying, exhilarating. I did not know consciousness could feel so focused, so intense. The moment stretched between them, weighted with recognition neither could name. Roan's hand covered hers against his face, doubling the contact. He felt her fascination with him, her fear of what she was feeling, her desperate loneliness in the silence where her people's voices should have been. And beneath it all, something else. Something that made his pulse quicken and his breath catch. Then the comm chimed and they stepped apart like guilty teenagers. The transmission came through before Roan reached the cockpit, a woman's voice familiar enough to make his chest constrict. Roan, it's Mira. I'm transmitting on old crew frequencies because I need you to hear this. The Coalition's authorized lethal force for Thessara's capture, and there's a Velith separatist faction hunting her too, working with human forces. A pause. I'm coming to you. I've got intel you need. Coordinates attached. Please don't run. Tessara appeared beside him in the doorway, face carefully neutral. Your former crew? Mira Shen, engineer, best one I ever worked with. He met her gaze. You trust her? I trust you, Tessara said quietly. If you believe she comes in good faith, I will accept your judgment. The coordinates led them to a nameless station far off standard routes. Mira's courier ship waited in a decrepit docking berth. She came through the airlock in patched flight gear, close-cropped black hair showing bleached tips, movements quick with nervous energy. Her eyes went wide when she saw Thessera standing beside Roan. "Holy shit," Mira breathed. "You're actually harboring the Velith sovereign." She looked between them, taking in the way they stood close. "Do you have any idea what you've gotten yourself into?" "Working on it," Roan said. "What's the intel?" Mira pulled up a battered datapad. "Commander Halvar Resk, Coalition Intelligence. He's personally leading the hunt. 3 cruisers, full tactical support, lethal force authorized." She glanced at Thessara with sympathy. "But it's not just about capturing you. There's a Velith separatist named Valix coordinating with him. They want your neural architecture. They're planning to extract it and use it to create weapons systems with Velith consciousness technology." Thessara's skin went pale, nearly white. The glow in her eyes dimmed to nothing. "They would enslave minds, turn my people into components." "Yeah," Mira's expression hardened. "And here's the part I hate telling you. Resk has my family, my parents, my little brother. Said if I didn't help track you, they'd disappear into black sites where even their DNA wouldn't identify what's left." She looked at Roan, tears threatening. "I'm sorry. I planted a tracker on your ship during that supply run. They're coming. Maybe an hour, maybe less." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Roan saw Thessera's eyes go completely dark, the glow extinguishing as her formal distance slammed back into place like armor. Her skin paled further and her ears pressed flat against her skull. "How long have we actually got?" he asked quietly. 45 minutes when I docked, maybe 30 now." Thessara turned without a word and walked toward the medical bay, movements rigid with control. The door sealed behind her with a hiss of equalizing pressure that sounded too much like a closing coffin. Roan gave Mira 3 minutes to explain the tracker's location, then disabled it and dumped it through the waste lock. By the time he finished, Thessara still hadn't emerged from the medical bay. "She won't talk to me," he said, staring at the sealed door. Mira leaned against the corridor wall. "Can you blame her? We just proved that trusting humans gets you sold out." She paused. "I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her." "Not the time." "It's exactly the time. In 15 minutes, Resk's ships arrive, and if she's locked herself away from you, we're dead." Roan pressed the intercom. "Thessera, we need to move." "Please," he said quietly. "I know what it feels like when the people you trust let you down. But Mira's family." The door opened. Thessara stood in the doorway, and the change in her was stark. Her skin had gone nearly white, the violet faded to almost nothing. Her eyes held no glow at all, just flat amber like dead stones. Her ears pressed so flat against her skull, they were barely visible beneath her black hair. She looked at Mira with an expression that could have frozen stars. "Your family," she said. "How many siblings?" "Just my brother, he's 12. "And your parents raised you with care." "Yes," Mira's voice shook. "They're good people." "Then I understand why you would betray us." Thessera's gaze shifted to Roan. "I do not understand why you brought her here." "Because she warned us, because we don't have time before Resk arrives." "Then let us not waste it." Thessara moved past them toward the cockpit, mechanical. "We should run again." Roan caught her arm. The contact sent a jolt through the neural connection, and for a moment he felt what she was feeling. Not anger, not even hurt. Emptiness. The profound isolation of someone who had been alone in her mind for weeks and had just learned that the one connection she'd started to build was as fragile as everything else in her life. "I'm sorry," he said. Her eyes flickered with something. Surprise, maybe, but the glow didn't return. "You did not betray me. She did. And I brought her to you. That's on me." He didn't let go of her arm. "But we're going to fix this, together, because that's what we've been doing." "Together," she repeated, and something bitter crept into her voice. "You are alone by choice, Roan Callister. I am alone because I have no choice. These are not the same thing." The sensors screamed, 3 Coalition cruisers dropping out of jump, weapons hot. "Mira, get to the courier ship. We need a distraction." He looked at Thessera. "Can you get us out?" "I am not sure I care to try." The words hit like a slap. He'd never expected it in her. Then they win. Resk gets you, Valix gets your people, and I'm dead too because I chose to help you instead of playing safe. Her ears lifted slightly. That is not fair. Fair? Nothing about this is fair. Not what they're doing to your people. Not Mira's family being hostages. Not that I finally let myself care about someone, and now I'm watching her shut down. He pulled her closer, forcing her to meet his eyes. But I'm still here, still choosing to help you. So either get in that cockpit and fly, or tell me to leave you behind. But don't make me watch you give up. Tessera stared at him, and for a long moment nothing changed in her expression. Then color bled back into her skin, violet washing up from her collar toward her face like ink in water. Her eyes flickered once, twice, and caught fire with gold light. You are infuriating, she said. Noted, now move. They hit the cockpit as weapons fire raked the station's shields. Mira's courier ship detached, drawing attention as it burned away. She's giving us an opening, Roan said, hands flying across controls. Plot us a jump. Tessera slid into co-pilot, fingertips touching the console. Old Velith way station, abandoned remote. Roan threw the Tide into hard spin, using the station as cover. Coalition fire tore through empty space. Tessera's hands moved with impossible speed, feeding him firing solutions. They worked in sync. The Tide screamed as he pushed past safety margins. Mira's taking fire, Tessera said quietly. Roan checked tactical. 3 cruisers were closing on the courier ship. She knew the risks, he said, hating it. Tessera's hand covered his on the jump control. She saved us after betraying us. Yeah. Is that not what you would want me to remember? That humans can be more than their worst moments? Roan looked at her. Violet skin deepening, gold light steady, ears returned to natural position. Not the closed-off sovereign, but the woman who'd shown him how she saw him. He pulled his hand from the jump control. We do this together. They inverted trajectory, burning back toward Mira instead of jumping. The cruisers hesitated, giving them their opening. Roan brought the Tide alongside the courier, matching velocity while Tessera overrode docking protocols. The cruisers opened fire, but together they made a harder target. Mira, get over here. Already moving. The docking tube pressurized. 15 seconds later, Mira tumbled through. Roan sealed it. Hold on. He jumped them blind. No calculation, no safety checks, just raw power. The universe twisted. The cruisers vanished. The Tide fell out of jump 3 systems away with alarms screaming. But alive. Tessera's hand found his. The neural connection opened. Not words, just recognition. They'd chosen each other over safety. The way station, he asked. 2 more jumps, but we need repairs first. She looked at Mira. Thank you for warning us. Mira wiped her eyes. Your Majesty. Tessera, just Tessera. She placed her hand on Mira's shoulder. The neural contact made Mira's eyes widen. I feel your fear for them, your love. It is not weakness to protect those you carry in your heart. Mira started crying, and Tessera held her with awkwardness that spoke of Velith not understanding physical comfort but trying. Roan guided the Tide to a dead moon for repairs. In 6 hours, Mira told them everything. How Resk took her family, showed recordings of her brother crying, how she'd planted the tracker but transmitted its location to Roan on a frequency he rarely checked. I knew it was a coin flip whether you'd see the warning, she said. I'm sorry. It was enough, Roan said. They reached the way station 18 hours later, abandoned, hidden in gravitational anomalies. The station had been built into a hollowed asteroid, Velith architecture flowing in organic curves. Tessera stood in the observation dome and spoke in her own language, words like music and grief. What are you saying? I am telling my people I am still here, still fighting. Her eyes dimmed. But I do not know if any can hear me. The collective has been silent since I fled. She didn't finish. Roan moved beside her. We find your loyalists, gather support. And if there are none left, then we make new ones. He took her hand. You showed me I'm not defined by failures. Let me show you that you're not alone. Tessera turned to face him fully, black hair catching light, violet skin rich. You terrify me. This connection between us, it is not how Velith bond, not how we understand intimacy. But when I am with you, the silence feels less like loss and more like space. room for something new. Is that good or bad? I do not know yet. She lifted her free hand to his face, fingertips against his temple, but I would like to find out. The neural connection deepened, and this time neither pulled away. The ancient sovereign vessel hidden in the way station's core was organic, corridors that curved like ribs, controls that warmed to touch, command chamber that felt like a living heart. Velith script glowed silver across every surface. Thesara moved through it with reverence, her fingers trailing across consoles that hummed to life at her contact. This was built when the Velith first reached for the stars, before we understood how isolated other species were. Can you fly it? Roan asked with a yes, but not alone. She turned to face him, and he saw fear in her eyes, real, raw fear that cut through her usual composure. This ship amplifies the Sovereign's connection to the collective. To let one mind touch thousands across vast distances, without the full network supporting me, attempting to use it will burn me out. My neural pathways cannot handle that much data without the collective to share the load. Mira's voice crackled through the comm. Resk's fleet just entered the system, 20 minutes. Roan studied Thessara's face. What if you weren't alone? The interface requires neural architecture humans don't possess. The secondary interface, Roan said. There has to be a way for non-Velith to connect. That interface was never meant for this. You could be overwhelmed, erased. Then don't let that happen. Let me show you I trust you. Thesara stood frozen. Then she crossed to him, fingertips pressing his temples. The neural contact opened deeper than ever. Memory now. She saw his crew laughing before they died. Every failure, every regret, and beneath it all, what he felt for her. You would risk this for me, she whispered. Because watching you face this alone would break something in me I only just found. The way station shuddered. Weapons fire. Resk had arrived early, like, we're out of time, Mira said. Thesara stepped to the throne. The ship responded, systems blazing. When you connect, don't fight the data stream. Trust me to guide it. Always have, he said, and placed his hands on the secondary interface. The connection hit like lightning. Suddenly he was everywhere, consciousness expanding into a vast network. Data flooded through him, more than any human mind could process. He started to drown. Then Thesara was there, a presence in the chaos, anchoring him. She shaped the data, filtered it, carried most while letting only what he could handle reach his awareness. Together they lifted the vessel. Resk's fleet spread in formation, 3 coalition cruisers and 2 Velith separatist ships. Power down immediately, came Resk's voice. Surrender and we'll let your humans live. Through the link, Roan felt Thessara's response. Not surrender, never. She opened communications. Commander Resk, you allied with those who would enslave my people. Withdraw or face consequences. Resk laughed. Your collective doesn't want you anymore. Valix has begun severing the emotional bonds. In a week, there won't be a Velith who remembers what caring felt like. You'll be a relic. Through their connection, Roan felt Thessara's anguish. He pushed back. We stop this, together. Coalition ships opened fire. The ancient vessel danced between weapons fire. But they couldn't run forever. 5 ships to 1. They needed the homeworld, the amplification arrays. But Resk controlled the approach. Through the link, Roan felt Thessara's decision, amplification here, across 3 star systems. Risk everything on one broadcast. No, that'll kill you. Better that than watch my people become monstrous. Mira's voice. There might be another way. Resk's crew is nervous. Not everyone's comfortable. An idea sparked. Coalition ships had Velith crew aboard. If Thessara could reach them. I can focus amplification narrowly, Thesara said. Reach the Velith aboard those coalition vessels. Through the link, he felt her hope kindle. She fed power to the arrays. The ship shuddered. Now, Thesara said, and opened the connection. Through the link, Roan experienced her broadcast. Pure sensation and memory. The collective mind at its best. Then the contrast. Valix's vision of cold efficiency. The plan to enslave consciousness. Most powerfully, she showed them what Roan had shown her. Individual bond. The terrifying feeling of choosing one person. Not replacing the collective, but adding to it. The broadcast lasted 5 seconds. One cruiser stopped firing, then another. Ships broke formation. All ships maintain formation, Resk ordered. Negative, resolute. My Velith staff confirmed the broadcast. We're not enslaving a sentient species. Standing down. Ships scattered. Only Resk's flagship and the separatist vessels remained. Thesara jumped the sovereign vessel toward the homeworld, pulling hostile ships along. Jump after jump, with Resk pursuing, but unable to close distance. Roan felt the strain. Each jump burned through power and Thesara's endurance. His consciousness was fraying, but they were almost there. The homeworld appeared, violet jewel against black space. Thesara aimed toward planetary amplification networks, and Resk's ships opened fire. Shields collapsed, hull breaches blossomed. Roan felt Thesara's pain as the ancient ship began tearing apart. But they were close enough. Thesara activated the arrays and reconnected with the collective. Instead of silence, the network flooded with something unprecedented. The broadcast magnified thousandfold, reaching every Velith mind. For the first time, the Velith felt what humans felt. Individual connection, personal choice. The collective didn't reject it, they transformed. Thousands of minds suddenly comprehending. The Velith realized that adding human-style connection expanded what they could be. The separatist ships powered down, Valix's philosophy crumbled. Only Resk's flagship kept coming. Then Mira's courier slammed into Resk's ship, sending it spinning. Nobody kills my friends but me. The Velith defense fleet appeared, dozens of ships surrounding Resk's crippled vessel. Over. Thesara disconnected, and the loss hit Roan like falling. He collapsed. Thesara was there, hands on his face. Stay with me, she said, Roan. He focused on her golden eyes. Did it work? Yes, my people understand. We're still collective, but now we know we can choose individual bonds too. We can be both. Her voice broke. You showed us that. Worth it, for you. Loyalist forces boarded and carried them to safety. Medical teams stabilized them. Mira was there, laughing through tears. Days later, Thesara reclaimed her throne. Different now. Valix was stripped of influence. Resk faced trial. Mira's family was released. And Roan stood with Thesara aboard the Tide, rebuilt with Velith technology. You could stay, Thesara said, hand in his. With me, the collective welcomes you. What are you asking? I am asking if you will continue to teach me what it means to feel only one person. Her cadence had softened. If you will let me be terrified and exhilarated by you every day. If you will stay close enough that the silence never feels like loss again. Roan looked at her, violet skin warm, black hair loose, golden eyes bright. He thought about his crew, the years alone, the choice to help a stranger that led him here. Yeah, he said, I can do that. The neural connection opened as she touched his face, and this time it wasn't terror or desperation. It was just them, one human, one Velith, choosing each other. Mira appeared, grinning. So I need my own ride home? Actually, Thesara said, not looking away from Roan. I was hoping you would stay. The Velith have much to learn. We need teachers. You offering me a job? I am offering you a place. Hell yes. They stayed. Roan piloted the Tide through Velith space with Thesara at his side, teaching her people while learning what it meant to be part of something larger. And at night, when Thesara touched his face and opened the neural link, Roan finally understood what he'd been searching for. Not isolation, not protection from loss, but the courage to let someone see him completely and choose to stay anyway. The universe stretched endless before them. For the first time in either of their lives, neither faced it alone.